You don't belong here. Brenda's voice, a rusty nail scraping bone. Just like that. Nia wasn't getting on that plane. Brenda Vance, queen of Gate B32, thought she'd won. Another uppity nobody put in their place. Careers ended over less, right? What she didn't know, couldn't possibly fathom, was the hoodie hid a surgeon. A surgeon racing against time, a dying girl in London, a transplant team waiting. And Brenda? She held the key. The passport sat nestled in the trash below. A mistake? Maybe, but mistakes have consequences. She had no idea. Zero. How Nia's quiet dignity would unravel everything. She held all the power. She was wrong. What Brenda didn't know was that the woman standing in the grey hoodie wasn't just a passenger. She was the only person on Earth who could save the life of the airline CEO's dying daughter. By the time the plane took off, the police were involved, careers were destroyed, and the karma that hit this gate agent was so severe it made national headlines. This is the story of the passport in the trash, and you won't believe how it ends. The automatic sliding doors of JFK's Terminal 4 hissed open, letting in a gust of biting December wind that swirled around Dr. Nia Reynolds's ankles. She shivered, pulling her oversized grey frantic university hoodie tighter around her frame. It was 4:30 a.m. on a Thursday, the kind of hour where the fluorescent lights of the airport hum with a headache-inducing brightness and the floor feels too hard beneath your feet. Nia was exhausted. She had just come off a 26-hour shift at Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan. Her eyes were rimmed with red, her hair was pulled back into a messy, functional bun, and she was wearing sweatpants and sneakers. To the casual observer, she looked like a college student heading home for the holidays, or perhaps someone who had just rolled out of bed. She certainly didn't look like one of the youngest double-board-certified cardiothoracic surgeons in the country. She gripped the handle of her Toomey carry-on, her knuckles white. Every second counted. The call had come in 2 hours ago, an emergency case in London, a rare congenital heart defect in a 6-year-old girl that required a specific procedure only a handful of surgeons in the world could perform. Nia was the best of them. She checked her watch, an understated vintage Cartier that was currently hidden beneath her sleeve. Boarding for Flight 294 to Heathrow was starting in 40 minutes. She had been booked into first class by the medical transport team to ensure she could sleep during the flight and arrive ready to operate. Nia navigated the crowds, her mind already running through the surgical steps, visualizing the aortic arch, the delicate sutures. She approached the check-in counter for Sovereign Airways. The economy line snaked back toward the entrance, a chaotic river of frustrated families and tired business travelers. The priority lane, however, was empty. Nia ducked under the rope and walked up to the podium. Behind the desk stood a woman who looked like she had been carved out of stale granite. Her name tag read Brenda. She was in her mid-50s, with hair dyed a harsh brassy blonde that was sprayed into a helmet of immobility. Her uniform was crisp, but her expression was one of permanent distaste, as if she smelled something rotting. Brenda Vance had worked for Sovereign Airways for 22 years. She was a gate agent who treated her podium not as a service desk, but as a fortress. She reveled in the tiny slivers of power she could wield. She decided who got the upgrade, who got their bag weighed twice, and who had a nice flight. Today, Brenda was in a foul mood. Her coffee was cold, her feet hurt, and she had just been reprimanded by a supervisor for being rude to a platinum member. She needed a target. And then she saw Nia. Nia stepped up to the counter, offering a tired but polite smile. "Good morning. I'm checking in for Flight 294 to London." Brenda didn't look up. She continued typing furiously on her keyboard, her acrylic nails clicking like hail on a tin roof. Nia waited. 10 seconds. 20. "Excuse me?" Nia said softly. Brenda stopped typing. She slowly raised her head, her eyes scanning Nia from the messy bun down to the scuffed sneakers. A sneer curled the corner of her lip. "This is the priority lane, miss," Brenda said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Economy check-in is that way. Get in the back of the line." She pointed a manicured finger toward the chaotic mass of people behind them. Nia didn't blink. She was used to being underestimated. It happened when she walked into boardrooms, and it happened when she walked into luxury stores. She kept her voice calm. "I know where economy is, thank you. I'm flying first class. Here is my confirmation. Nia placed her phone on the counter, the screen displaying the QR code and the bold letters, First Class, Seat 1A. Brenda looked at the phone, then back at Nia's hoodie. She didn't scan the code. Names on screens can be faked. I need a physical passport. Of course. Nia reached into her front pocket and pulled out her US passport. She handed it over. Brenda snatched it. She opened the book, looking at the photo, then at Nia, then back at the photo. This doesn't look like you. It was taken 3 years ago, Nia said, her patience fraying at the edges. I have my hair down in the photo. It's me. The nose looks different, Brenda muttered, squinting. And you look cleaner in the picture. Nia stiffened. I just came off a 26-hour shift. I'm a surgeon. I need to get on this flight. Brenda let out a sharp, barking laugh. A surgeon? You? She looked around as if performing for an invisible audience. Honey, look at you. You look like you just came off a shift at a fast food joint, not a hospital. Don't lie to me. It's a federal offense to lie to airline personnel. I am not lying, Nia said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming steely. And I don't appreciate your tone. Please scan my passport and issue my boarding pass. I have a medical emergency to attend to in London. Oh, now it's a medical emergency. Brenda leaned over the counter, her face twisting into a mask of hostility. First you're a surgeon, now it's an emergency. Next you'll tell me you own the airline. You people always have a story. You people. The air around them seemed to freeze. The couple standing behind Nia in the priority line, a well-dressed older man named Marcus and his wife, shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, Marcus spoke up, she showed you her ticket, just let her through. Stay out of this, sir, Brenda snapped without looking at him. She fixed her gaze on Nia. I'm flagging this reservation for fraud. You're not flying today. You can't be serious, Nia said, checking her watch. 4:45 a.m., the timeline was getting tight. Call your supervisor, now. I don't need a supervisor to spot a fake ID and a stolen credit card booking, Brenda hissed, and then she did the unthinkable. Brenda Vance held Nia's passport over the edge of the counter. Below the counter, hidden from the view of the passengers but accessible to the agent, was a large grey industrial trash bin. You want your passport? Brenda whispered, her eyes gleaming with malice. Go find it in the dumpster outside when the cleaners empty this. Because you aren't going to London. Brenda dropped her hand. Thump. The passport landed in the bin. Nia gasped, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. Did you just throw my passport in the trash? I don't know what you're talking about, Brenda said loudly, suddenly switching to a tone of fake customer service politeness. I handed it back to you, miss. If you lost it, that's your problem. Now please step aside, you're holding up the line. Security. Brenda pressed a button under the desk. Nia stood frozen, her heart pounding against her ribs, not out of fear, but out of a cold, white-hot fury. She looked at the empty space in Brenda's hand, then at the smug look on the woman's face. You are going to regret this, Nia whispered. Next, Brenda yelled, looking past her. For a moment, the bustle of Terminal 4 faded into background noise. Nia stared at the woman behind the counter, trying to process the sheer audacity of what had just happened. It wasn't just rude, it was insane. It was illegal. I am not moving, Nia said, planting her feet. She placed her hands flat on the counter. You dropped my passport into the trash can beneath your podium. Retrieve it. Now. Brenda rolled her eyes, huffing loudly. Miss, I'm going to ask you one last time to step away. You are becoming aggressive. I handed your document back. If you dropped it, you need to look on the floor. It's not on the floor, Nia said, her voice rising just enough to carry. It is in your garbage. She's right, Marcus, the man behind Nia, stepped forward. He was tall, wearing a bespoke suit, holding a briefcase. I saw you drop it. You held it over the edge and let go. Brenda's eyes narrowed at Marcus. Sir, unless you want to be denied boarding for interfering with a security procedure, I suggest you back off. This passenger is confused and belligerent. I am neither confused nor belligerent, Nia stated firmly. I am a neurosurgeon needed for a life-saving operation in London in 7 hours. Every minute you waste is endangering a child's life. Give me my passport. Security, Brenda shouted, waving her hand frantically. Two TSA officers and a Port Authority police officer who had been patrolling nearby jogged over. The police officer, Officer Kowalski, was a large man with a buzz cut and a tired expression. "What's the problem here?" Kowalski asked, his hand resting near his belt. Brenda immediately launched into a performance worthy of an Academy Award. She slumped her shoulders, putting a hand to her chest, looking like a victim. "Officer, thank God. This passenger, she's crazy. She tried to use a fake ID, and when I told her the system rejected it, she started screaming at me. She threw her documents at me, and now she's refusing to leave the counter. She's threatening me." Nia turned to the officer, holding her hands up in a non-threatening gesture. "Officer, that is a lie. My name is Dr. Nia Reynolds. This agent refused to scan my ticket, insulted my appearance, and then threw my passport into the trash bin behind her desk." Kowalski looked at Nia. He saw the sweatpants, the hoodie, the messy hair. Then he looked at Brenda in her crisp uniform, looking terrified. Bias, unconscious or otherwise, began to do its work. "Ma'am," Kowalski said to Nia, "I need you to step back from the podium." "Officer, my passport is in her trash," Nia insisted, pointing. "Just look." "She's lying," Brenda shrieked. "She's trying to get me fired because I caught her fraud. She probably dropped it on the floor to frame me." "Step back," Kowalski ordered, his voice harder this time. He moved between Nia and the counter. "Do you have ID on you?" "It's in the trash," Nia yelled, losing her composure for the first time. "She threw it away." "So you have no ID?" Kowalski asked, pulling out a notepad. "Ma'am, if you don't have ID, you can't be in this area, and screaming at airline personnel is a federal offense." "I am not screaming." Nia took a deep breath, forcing her surgeon's calm to return. "Officer, please, just look in the bin. That is all I ask. If it's not there, arrest me." "But if it is there, you need to arrest her." Kowalski hesitated. Nia's voice was articulate, educated, and desperate. "Don't touch my workspace," Brenda snapped at the officer. "That's a violation of airline protocol. Only authorized Sovereign Airways personnel can touch the secure podium area. You need a warrant to search my workspace." Brenda was bluffing, but she sounded confident. She knew most cops didn't want to deal with jurisdictional paperwork at 5 a.m. "She's right," Kowalski sighed, looking at Nia. "I can't just rifle through her desk without cause or a supervisor present. Ma'am, you need to come with me to the station. We can sort this out there." "I don't have time for the station," Nia pleaded. "The flight leaves in 30 minutes. A child is dying." "Yeah, right," Brenda scoffed. "And I'm the Queen of England." Suddenly, a commotion erupted from the economy line. A young woman with a smartphone had been filming the entire interaction. She pushed her way to the front of the rope. "I got it," the girl shouted. "I got it on video." Brenda's face went pale. "Who are you?" Brenda demanded. "You can't film here. It's illegal." "It's a public space, lady," the girl said, holding her phone up high. "Officer, I started recording when she started yelling at the doctor. I zoomed in. You can see her drop the passport. It's right there in the video." Kowalski looked at the girl, then back at Brenda. Brenda was starting to sweat. The heavy makeup on her forehead was glistening. "Let me see that," Kowalski said, walking over to the girl with the phone. "No," Brenda yelled, slamming her hand on the counter. "This is ridiculous. I am the victim here. You're going to trust some TikTok kid over a 20-year airline veteran." "If you have nothing to hide, Brenda," Nia said, her voice cutting through the noise like a scalpel, "why are you so afraid of him looking in the bin?" Brenda glared at Nia with pure hatred. "You think you're special? You think you can just waltz in here with your hoodie and your attitude? I know your type." "And what type is that?" Nia asked. "The type that doesn't belong in first class," Brenda spat out. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Kowalski looked shocked by the blatant prejudice. "Okay, that's enough," Kowalski said. He turned to his radio. "Dispatch, I need an airline supervisor at gate B32 immediately, and send a second unit." "I'm calling my union rep," Brenda shouted, grabbing the phone on her desk. "Call whoever you want," Nia said, checking the time again. 5 a.m. But you better hope that passport is found in the next 5 minutes, because if I miss this flight, Sovereign Airways is going to have a lawsuit that will bankrupt this terminal." "Threats," Brenda screamed into the phone receiver. "She's threatening the airline." At that moment, a man in a sharp navy blue suit came running down the concourse. He looked frantic. He was holding a tablet and scanning the crowd. He spotted the police and the commotion at the priority desk. "Is there a Dr. Reynolds here?" the man shouted. "Dr. Nia Reynolds." Nia stepped forward, avoiding Kowalski's arm. "I am Dr. Reynolds." The man in the suit looked at her, relief washing over his face, followed immediately by confusion as he took in the police officer and the shouting gate agent. "Dr. Reynolds, I'm Jonathan Creevy, the station manager," he gasped, out of breath. "We got a call from headquarters, from Mr. Sterling himself." Brenda froze. The phone receiver slipped from her hand and dangled by its cord. "Mr. Sterling, Arthur Sterling, the CEO of Sovereign Airways." "He called?" Brenda whispered. Jonathan ignored Brenda. He looked at Nia with wide eyes. "Dr. Reynolds, Mr. Sterling is on the line. He wants to know why you haven't boarded. He says his granddaughter's vitals are dropping." Nia looked at Brenda, whose face had gone from red to a ghostly, sickly white. "I haven't boarded, Mr. Creevy," Nia said, pointing a shaking finger at Brenda, "because your gate agent threw my passport in the garbage." The silence that had descended upon gate B32 was heavy, suffocating. It was the kind of silence that usually precedes a natural disaster. Jonathan Creevy, the station manager, stood with the phone pressed to his chest heaving from his sprint across the terminal. He looked from Nia to Brenda, his brain trying to reconcile the impossible situation before him. "She threw your passport in the trash," Jonathan repeated, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. He looked at the grey industrial bin tucked beneath the counter. It was a receptacle meant for baggage tags, old boarding passes, and the dregs of lukewarm coffee, not the federal identification of a VIP surgeon. "She did," Nia said, her voice eerily calm. The adrenaline of the fight was fading, replaced by a cold, sharp focus. "And Officer Kowalski here was just about to arrest me for not having identification." Jonathan turned slowly to Brenda. Brenda Vance was no longer the granite-faced gatekeeper of Terminal 4. She was trembling. A small tic had developed under her left eye. She gripped the edge of the podium so hard her acrylic nails looked ready to snap. "Mr. Creevy," Brenda stammered, her voice high and reedy. "Don't listen to her. She's delusional. I told you, she's been causing a scene for 20 minutes. I was just trying to protect the airline's safety protocols. Open the bin," Jonathan commanded. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of a guillotine blade. "Sir, that's a violation of—" "Brenda!" Jonathan roared, causing the passengers in the nearby seats to jump. "Open the damn bin." Brenda swallowed hard. Her hands shook as she reached under the counter. She fumbled with the latch. She knew what was in there. She knew exactly where she had dropped it, right on top of a half-eaten bagel she had discarded 20 minutes ago. But she also knew that if she opened that bin, her life as she knew it was over. She hesitated. "Officer," Jonathan said, turning to Kowalski, "please assist her." Kowalski, realizing the tide had turned violently against the gate agent, stepped forward. "Step aside, ma'am." Brenda shrank back, pressing herself against the wall of the jet bridge door as if trying to merge with the paint. Kowalski moved behind the podium. He grabbed the plastic rim of the trash can and pulled it out into the open. Under the harsh glare of the terminal lights, the crowd that had gathered, now numbering nearly 50 people, including the economy passengers, leaned in. The girl with the smartphone was still recording, holding her device steady like a documentary filmmaker. Kowalski peered into the darkness of the bin. It was half full. Fast food wrappers, sticky soda cups, crumpled papers. "I don't see it," Kowalski muttered. "Dig," Nia said. She dropped it right on top, but she threw a coffee cup in after it. Brenda let out a small, strangled noise. Kowalski put on a pair of black latex gloves from his utility belt. He reached in, moving aside a greasy paper bag from a burger chain. He shifted a pile of wet napkins. Then he stopped. Slowly, dramatically, Officer Kowalski pulled his hand out. Between his thumb and forefinger, stained with a smear of cream cheese and damp with coffee grounds, was a dark blue booklet with the gold eagle of the United States of America embossed on the front. The crowd gasped. A collective "ooh" rippled through the onlookers. "Oh my God," the woman filming whispered, capturing the shot perfectly. "She actually did it." Kowalski held the passport up. He looked at Brenda, his expression hardening. He felt played. He had almost arrested an innocent doctor because this woman had lied to his face. "Is this yours, Dr. Reynolds?" Kowalski asked, wiping the cover on a clean napkin he pulled from his pocket before handing it to Nia. Nia took it. She opened it to the photo page. It was dry, thankfully. "Yes, this is it." She looked at Brenda. Brenda was shaking her head, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "It must have slipped," Brenda whispered, the lie so thin it was transparent. "I was handing it back and it slipped, and I didn't realize." "You said I didn't give it to you," Nia reminded her. "Then you said I lost it. Then you said I was crazy. Which is it, Brenda? Did it slip or am I crazy?" Brenda didn't answer. She couldn't. Jonathan Creevy stepped into the space between them. He looked at his watch. 5:15 a.m. "Dr. Reynolds," Jonathan said, his tone urgent and apologetic. "I cannot begin to express how sorry Sovereign Airways is. We will deal with this. I promise you, we will deal with this severely. But right now Mr. Sterling is on hold and the pilot is holding the door. We need to get you on that plane." Nia looked at the passport in her hand, then at the defeated, terrified woman against the wall. She wanted to scream. She wanted to demand Brenda be fired right here and now. But the image of the 6-year-old girl in London flashed in her mind, the aortic arch, the clock ticking. "Let's go," Nia said, grabbing her Toomey bag. "Wait," Kowalski said. "Dr. Reynolds, I need a statement for the report if we're going to press charges against the agent for theft or destruction of property." "I don't have time for a statement," Nia snapped, already moving toward the jet bridge. "Get it from the video that girl recorded. Get it from the witnesses. I have a life to save." Jonathan tapped his badge against the reader, bypassing the computer Brenda had been guarding. The door to the jet bridge beeped and unlocked. As Nia walked past Brenda, the gate agent looked up, tears streaking through her thick foundation. "I didn't know who you were. I was just having a bad day." Nia stopped. She turned one last time, her silhouette framed by the tunnel leading to the plane. "That's the problem, Brenda," Nia said softly. "You shouldn't have to know who I am to treat me like a human being. Your bad day just cost you everything." Nia turned and vanished down the tunnel. Jonathan Creevy didn't follow her immediately. He stood at the door, watching Nia disappear. Then he slowly turned back to Brenda. Brenda wiped her nose. "Jonathan, look, I can explain. She was aggressive. I got scared." Jonathan's face was stone. He reached down to his belt and pulled out his radio. "Security control," Jonathan spoke into the mic, his eyes never leaving Brenda's face. "This is Station Manager Creevy. I need a relief agent to Gate B32 immediately, and send a human resources representative with the airport police." "HR," Brenda gasped. "Jonathan, please, I've got 22 years. "You had 22 years, Jonathan corrected her. He reached over the podium and took the lanyard from around her neck, the one holding her security badge and terminal keys. "You are relieved of duty, Ms. Vance. Effective immediately. Do not touch the computer. Do not speak to passengers. Stand there and wait for the police to escort you out of the building." "Escort me out?" Brenda screeched, panic finally setting in fully. "Like a criminal?" Jonathan leaned in close. "You obstructed a medical emergency involving the family of the CEO. You falsified a security threat. And you desecrated a passenger's federal ID. You're lucky if you only leave here as a criminal. If that little girl in London dies because of this delay, you'll be leaving here as a pariah." Jonathan turned and ran down the jet bridge to ensure the flight departed. Left alone at the podium, surrounded by 50 staring passengers and a police officer who was now writing furiously in his notebook, Brenda Vance felt the walls of Terminal 4 closing in. She looked at the trash can, still sitting in the middle of the floor. The garbage was exposed, and so was she. The cabin door of Flight 294 thudded shut, sealing out the chaos of New York City. The sudden quiet was jarring. Nia collapsed into Seat 1A. It was a plush leather suite with a sliding door for privacy, a lie-flat bed, and a massive entertainment screen. Usually, this level of luxury would be a treat. Today, it felt like a frantic sanctuary. She was trembling. The adrenaline crash was hitting her hard. Her hands, which needed to be steady as rock in a few hours, were shaking uncontrollably. "Dr. Reynolds." A soft voice broke her trance. A flight attendant, a young man named Leo with a concerned expression, was kneeling beside her suite. He held a steaming hot towel on a silver tray. "Captain Miller asked me to check on you," Leo whispered. "We were told about the incident at the gate. We are cleared for immediate takeoff. We're jumping the queue. We'll be in the air in 5 minutes." Nia took the hot towel and pressed it against her face. The heat helped. "Thank you, Leo. I need water. And I need to sleep. I have to operate as soon as we land." "Say no more," Leo said. "I've already made up the bed in 1A. As soon as the seatbelt sign is off, I'll bring you a bottle of water and do not disturb you for the entire flight unless you ring. Is there anything else?" "Yes," Nia said, lowering the towel. Her eyes were intense. "Does the cockpit have a satellite phone? I need to speak to the transport team in London. I need to update them on the delay." "The captain is already on the line with Sovereign Airways operations," Leo assured her. "Mr. Sterling, the CEO, is patching through to the hospital in London personally. They know you're coming. They're prepping the patient." Nia nodded, closing her eyes. Okay. The plane lurched backward. The engines whined to life, a deep, powerful thrum that vibrated through the floor. As the huge aircraft taxied, Nia didn't look out the window. She pulled out her iPad. She couldn't sleep yet. She needed to review the scans of the patient's heart one more time. Amelia Sterling. Age 6. Hypoplastic left heart syndrome with a deteriorating right ventricle. Nia stared at the complex 3D rendering of the child's heart. It was a ticking time bomb. The delay at the gate had cost them 45 minutes. In cardiac surgery, 45 minutes could be the difference between a clean recovery and brain damage. It could be the difference between life and death. As the plane roared down the runway and lifted into the dark sky, Nia whispered a prayer. Not for herself, but for the little girl waiting in London. And a little bit for the woman she had left behind at the gate. Because Nia knew that while she was fighting to save a life, Brenda Vance was about to see her own life dismantled piece by piece. Meanwhile, back on the ground at JFK, the sun was just beginning to crest over the horizon, painting the tarmac in hues of orange and purple. But inside Terminal 4, the atmosphere was storm dark. Brenda Vance was sitting in a windowless room in the airport security substation. She had been escorted through the terminal by Officer Kowalski and 2 other officers. The walk of shame had been brutal. The economy passengers, the ones she had barked at to get in the back of the line, had watched her being marched away, stripped of her badge. Some had cheered. Now she sat across from a woman in a sharp grey suit. This was Diane Thorne, the regional director of HR for Sovereign Airways. Diane did not look happy. She had been woken up at 5:30 a.m. by a call from the VP of Operations, who had been screamed at by Arthur Sterling himself. Diane placed a tablet on the metal table between them. "Brenda," Diane said, her voice devoid of warmth, "do you know what Class 1 gross misconduct is?" Brenda wiped her eyes. She was still in denial. "Diane, listen, the passenger was rude. She didn't look like a doctor. She looked like a homeless person. I was just doing my job. I was protecting the flight." "You threw a passenger's passport in the trash," Diane stated flatly. "It slipped," Brenda insisted, sticking to her lie. "It was an accident." Diane tapped the tablet screen. "We have the security footage from the camera above the gate podium, Brenda. We also have 3 different angles from passengers' cell phones that are already circulating on Twitter and TikTok. Would you like to see them?" Diane turned the tablet around. Brenda looked. The video was crystal clear. It showed Nia handing the passport over. It showed Brenda looking at it, sneering, holding it over the edge, and deliberately, unmistakably, opening her fingers to let it drop. Then the video showed Brenda smirking. The audio was crisp too. "You want your passport? Go find it in the dumpster outside." Brenda watched herself on the screen. She looked hateful. She looked bitter. She looked guilty. "That video has 2 million views," Diane said, pulling the tablet back. "It's been up for an hour. The hashtag #SovereignRacist is trending #1 in the United States." Brenda put her head in her hands. "I can fix this. I'll apologize. I'll write her a letter." "You're fired, Brenda," Diane said. She slid a piece of paper across the table. "This is your termination notice, effective immediately. You are losing your pension. You are losing your flight benefits. You are permanently banned from flying Sovereign Airways. My pension. Brenda looked up, her face draining of color. You can't take my pension. I worked here for 22 years. There is a morality clause in your contract, Diane explained, tapping the paper. Actions that bring severe public disrepute or maliciously endanger passengers void the company's contribution match. The legal team is already reviewing whether we can sue you for damages if the family presses charges. And frankly, considering who that patient is, you should be worried about more than your pension. Who is the patient? Brenda asked, her voice barely a whisper. Why is everyone making such a big deal about this kid? Diane stood up, gathering her things. She looked down at Brenda with a mixture of pity and disgust. The patient is Amelia Sterling, Diane said, Arthur Sterling's only grandchild. The man who built this airline, the man who signs your checks. You didn't just delay a doctor, Brenda. You held the door shut on the CEO's family. Diane walked to the door. Officer Kowalski will escort you to the curb. Do not return to the property. The door slammed shut. Brenda sat alone in the metal room. The silence was deafening. She thought about her bills. She thought about her mortgage. She thought about the Florida vacation she had booked for next month using her employee miles. All of it gone. Dropped in the trash, just like the passport. High above the Atlantic, Flight 294 hit a patch of turbulence. The plane shook violently. In seat 1A, Nia woke with a start. She had managed to doze off for an hour. She checked the flight map. They were 3 hours away from London. She pressed the call button. Leo appeared instantly. Are we okay? Nia asked. Just some chop over the ocean, Leo said smoothly. Captain Miller is climbing to 38,000 feet to smooth it out. We're making incredible time, Dr. Reynolds. We have a tailwind. We're projected to land 40 minutes early. Nia let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. 40 minutes early. That would make up for the time lost at the gate. Karma, it seemed, was working in her favor. The wind was literally at her back. Do you need anything else? Leo asked. Coffee, Nia said, sitting up and rubbing her face. Black, and turn on the Wi-Fi. I need to talk to the team. Leo nodded. The Wi-Fi is complimentary for you, of course. And Dr. Reynolds? Yes? Leo hesitated, then lowered his voice. My sister is on the ground in New York. She just texted me. She said the news is reporting that the gate agent has been fired. And well, the internet is going crazy. They're calling you a hero. Nia looked out the window at the endless blue expanse of the sky. I'm not a hero yet, Leo, she said, her thoughts drifting to the little girl waiting on an operating table. Ask me again in 5 hours. She opened her laptop and connected to the onboard Wi-Fi. Her inbox exploded, hundreds of emails, texts from colleagues, notifications from news outlets. Top story, Sovereign Airways agent fired after viral video shows her trashing surgeon's passport. Nia ignored them all. She searched for one email address, Chief of Surgery, Royal London Hospital. She typed a quick message. Subject, en route. Body, I am in the air. Tailwind is strong. Landing at 16 Alau. Have the OR prepped and the patient induced by 16:30. I am coming. She hit send. The plane steadied. The turbulence passed. Nia Reynolds stared at the clouds, visualizing the scalpel in her hand, the steady rhythm of the heart monitor, and the life she was going to save. She was coming. And nothing, not wind, not distance, and certainly not Brenda Vance, was going to stop her. The tires of the Boeing 737 smoked as they hit the tarmac at Heathrow Airport. It was 3:55 p.m. local time. The grey London sky was weeping a steady, cold drizzle, blurring the runway lights into streaks of amber. Before the plane even came to a complete halt at the gate, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, tight and professional. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. We have a medical emergency arrival. We need to clear the forward cabin immediately for Dr. Reynolds. Please, no one stand up until she has deplaned. Nia was already standing by the door, her Toomey bag strapped across her chest. She had changed out of the sweatpants and hoodie in the lavatory, shifting into a pair of clean scrubs she carried with her. Though she kept the sneakers, she looked like a soldier ready for war. As the jet bridge connected with a metallic thunk, the door flew open. Standing there wasn't just airline staff. It was a team of London Metropolitan Police officers and a man in a high-visibility paramedic jacket. "Dr. Reynolds?" the paramedic barked. "Yes," Nia said, stepping onto British soil. "Come with us. We have a helicopter on standby, but the weather is too poor to fly. We're doing a blue light run. The traffic is bad, but we have escorts." They ran. Nia, the paramedic, and the police officers sprinted through the terminal, bypassing immigration entirely. Her passport, the one that had been in the trash just hours ago, was quickly scanned by a waiting agent who simply nodded her through. They burst out of the terminal into the biting cold air. A black BMW X5 with emergency lights flashing in the grille was waiting, engine running. Nia threw her bag in and jumped into the back seat. The paramedic, whose name was Simon, jumped in beside her. "Update on the patient?" Nia asked as the driver slammed on the gas, sirens wailing. Simon handed her a tablet. "Amelia Sterling, vitals are critical. Oxygen saturation is dropping. She's at 78%. They have her on ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, to bypass the heart and lungs, but her pressure is tanking. The right ventricle is failing faster than anticipated. The delay... Well, the delay didn't help." Nia stared at the numbers. The delay. Brenda's petty power trip. Those 45 minutes spent arguing over a passport were now measuring out the remaining beats of a child's heart. "How far?" Nia asked, looking out at the gridlocked M4 motorway. 20 minutes, the driver shouted over the siren. "Hold on." The car swerved onto the shoulder, bypassing the wall of red taillights. The police escort ahead of them parted the traffic like the Red Sea. Nia closed her eyes, visualizing the anatomy. She had to be perfect. She couldn't be tired. She couldn't be angry. She had to be a machine. The Royal London Hospital, 4:30 p.m. The scene outside the pediatric wing was chaotic. When the police escort screeched to a halt, Nia opened the door before the car had fully stopped. Waiting for her in the rain was a tall, imposing man with silver hair and a face etched with terror. It was Arthur Sterling, the CEO of Sovereign Airways, the man who controlled billions of dollars in assets, thousands of employees, and hundreds of aircraft. Right now, he looked like just a grandfather. He was soaking wet, ignoring the umbrella held by his assistant. "Dr. Reynolds," Arthur gasped, grabbing her hand as she stepped out. His grip was iron-hard, trembling. Thank God you're here." "Where is she?" Nia asked, skipping the pleasantries. "All three. They're prepping her. My daughter, Amelia's mother, she's in pieces." Arthur walked briskly beside her as they entered the sterile warmth of the hospital. "Doctor, I know what happened in New York. I know what my employee did to you. Nia stopped him. She turned to the billionaire, her eyes fierce. "Mr. Sterling, right now I don't care about your employee. I don't care about the airline. I care about that little girl. If you want to help me, stay here and pray. I have work to do." Arthur nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "Save her. Please, I'll give you anything, half the company. Just save her." Nia turned and pushed through the double doors marked surgical restricted area. She scrubbed in record time. The water was scalding hot on her hands. She looked at herself in the mirror above the sink. She saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the dark circles. "You can do this," she told herself. "You are Nia Reynolds. You don't need sleep. You need a scalpel." She kicked the door to OR3 open. The room was a hive of activity, beeping monitors, the rhythmic whoosh of the ventilator, the tense murmurs of the scrub nurses and the anesthesiologist. On the table lay a tiny form, almost swallowed by the blue drapes. "Dr. Reynolds is here," a nurse announced. The lead cardiologist, a British man named Dr. Sharma, looked up from the head of the table. "Glad you could join us, Nia. She's unstable. BP is 60/40. We're losing her." Nia stepped up to the table. She looked down at the open chest cavity. The heart was sluggish, swollen. It was struggling to beat, fluttering like a wounded bird. "Scalpel," Nia said, holding out her hand. The metal instrument slapped into her palm. "Time?" Nia asked. 16:42, a nurse replied. "Let's get to work," Nia whispered. For the next 6 hours, time ceased to exist. There was only the rhythm of the work: clamp, cut, suture, bypass. Nia's hands moved with a fluidity that defied logic. She repaired the hypoplastic arch, reconstructing the major vessel that carried blood to the body. She worked on the delicate tissue of a 6-year-old, where a mistake of 1 millimeter meant catastrophic bleeding. At hour 4, a crisis struck. "Pressure dropping," the anesthesiologist shouted. "We have a bleeder." Blood began to pool in the chest cavity, obscuring the field. The heart monitor began to scream a high-pitched warning. "Suction," Nia commanded, her voice cutting through the panic. "More suction. Get me a vascular clamp now." "She's coding," Dr. Sharma said, his voice tight. "Nia, we're losing her." Nia didn't look up. She reached her hand blindly into the pool of blood, feeling for the tear. She closed her eyes for a split second, relying on touch alone. She felt the rush of warm fluid. She felt the jagged edge of the artery, found it. "Clamp," she demanded. She clamped the vessel blindly. The bleeding stopped. "Give her 2 units of packed cells," Nia ordered. "Restart the heart." The room held its breath. The defibrillator whined. Thump. Nothing. The line on the monitor remained flat. "Again," Nia said. "Charge to 20 joules." Thump. Silence. "Come on, Amelia," Nia whispered into her mask. "Don't you die on me. Not today." She reached in and began to massage the tiny heart with her fingers. Squeeze, release, squeeze, release. She was manually pumping life into the child's body. "One more time," Nia said, sweat dripping down her forehead. "Clear." Thump. A pause. 1 second, 2 seconds. Beep. Then another. Beep. Then a steady rhythm. Beep. 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 Sinus rhythm returned, the anesthesiologist breathed out, slumping slightly in relief. Pressure stabilizing. 90/60. Nia pulled her hands away. She looked at the repair. It was holding. The sutures were perfect. The heart, though battered, was beating on its own, strong and rhythmic. Nia stepped back from the table, dropping her hands to her sides. Her knees felt like water. "Close her up, Dr. Sharma," Nia said quietly. "She's going to be fine." As she walked out of the OR, peeling off her blood-stained gloves, Nia finally let the exhaustion hit her. She slid down the wall in the hallway, sitting on the cold floor, and buried her face in her hands. She stayed there for 10 minutes, just breathing. She had won. While Nia was battling death in London, Brenda Vance was facing her own reckoning in Queens. It had been 12 hours since the incident. Brenda sat in her living room with the curtains drawn. The television was muted, but the headline was inescapable. "Airline racism scandal, agent fired." The video of her dropping the passport had 2 million views. Her husband, Frank, stormed into the room, his face red with shame. He had just come from work, where his boss told him not to come back because of the death threats the family was receiving. "Is it true?" Frank yelled, pointing at the screen. "You threw her passport in the garbage." "I was stressed," Brenda pleaded. "She provoked me." "She's a surgeon," Frank countered, throwing a suitcase onto the floor. "You didn't just ruin your job, Brenda. You lost your pension. You ruined our lives." He zipped the bag shut. "I'm going to my brother's. I can't look at you right now." The front door slammed, leaving Brenda alone in the silence. But not for long. Moments later, a sharp knock rattled the door. It wasn't reporters. It was the NYPD. A detective handed Brenda a thick manila envelope. "You are being charged with destruction of federal property and filing a false police report," the detective stated cold. "And inside is a civil lawsuit. Sovereign Airways is suing you for $5 million in damages to their reputation." Brenda dropped the envelope. $5 million? I don't have $500. "Tell it to the judge," the detective said, walking away. Brenda sank to the floor, a broken woman in a ruined house. London. 2 days later, the recovery room at the Royal London Hospital was filled with sunlight. Amelia Sterling was awake, weak but smiling, eating a cup of chocolate ice cream. Her heart was beating on its own, a steady, strong rhythm. Arthur Sterling, the billionaire CEO, stood by the bed. He looked 10 years older, but humbled. He asked to speak with Nia in the hallway. "Dr. Reynolds," Arthur said, handing her a cream-colored envelope. "I know I can't pay you for a life, but I want to make this right." Nia opened the letter. It wasn't a personal check. It was a document establishing the Reynolds Medical Grant, a $10 million annual fund to provide free air transport for underprivileged children needing surgery, administered solely by Nia. "You will never have to worry about a ticket again," Arthur said. "If a child needs to fly, they fly. First class, on the house." Nia was stunned. This was a legacy. "And regarding Ms. Vance," Arthur added, his voice hardening, "she has been fired and prosecuted. We audited her history and found a pattern of targeting passengers of color. You didn't just save my granddaughter, Dr. Reynolds, you exposed a rot in my company. We are refunding every passenger she ever mistreated." "I have one condition," Nia said. "Retrain your staff, empathy training. Make sure they know that the person in the hoodie might be the most important person in the world." "Done," Arthur promised. Nia checked her vintage watch. "I have rounds to do and then a flight to catch. I assume I won't have trouble checking in this time." Arthur laughed, a genuine sound of relief. "Dr. Reynolds, you own the plane." 6 months later, the Queens County Civil Court smelled of stale anxiety. Brenda Vance sat alone at the defendant's table, a shadow of the woman who had once ruled Gate B32 like a tyrant. Her husband, Frank, had filed for divorce months ago, unable to bear the public shame. He had taken the dog and left her to face the consequences alone. Judge Harrison, a stern woman with glasses perched on her nose, looked down at Brenda with thinly veiled disgust. "Ms. Vance," the judge's voice echoed in the quiet room, "I have reviewed the evidence. Because of your bias, a specialized surgeon was delayed. Medical reports confirm that Amelia Sterling went into cardiac arrest during surgery. Dr. Reynolds saved her, but it was a matter of seconds. If that plane had been delayed 10 minutes more, that child would be dead, and you would be facing manslaughter charges." Brenda sobbed quietly, her head bowed. "I didn't know." "That is the tragedy," the judge replied cold. "You didn't care to find out. You decided a young black woman in a hoodie belonged in the trash. Now you will pay the price." The gavel came down like a gunshot. Judgment for the plaintiff. You are ordered to pay $150,000 in restitution. You are sentenced to 500 hours of community service and 3 years of probation. Brenda closed her eyes. She was bankrupt. Her home was in foreclosure. Her pension was gone. She had nothing left. 1 year later, the automatic doors of JFK Terminal 4 hissed open, letting in the warm June air. The atmosphere inside had changed. Behind the Sovereign Airways counters, high-definition screens displayed a smiling photo of a healed Amelia Sterling above the words, "The Reynolds Medical Grant." Dr. Nia Reynolds walked through the doors. She wasn't wearing a hoodie this time. She wore a sharp navy blazer, guiding a young teenage boy named David beside her. "It's okay, David," Nia said softly. "We're going to London to fix your heart, and you'll be playing soccer by September." They approached the first-class counter. The agent, a young woman named Chloe, stood up immediately. There was no sneer, no demand for a passport. "Dr. Reynolds," Chloe smiled, handing over the boarding passes with 2 hands. "Mr. Sterling has the suite ready for you. Thank you for everything you do." "Thank you, Chloe," Nia replied. As they turned toward security, Nia paused. She looked toward the far end of the concourse, near the restrooms. A woman in a generic, ill-fitting grey uniform was pushing a heavy mop bucket. She looked aged beyond her years, scrubbing a coffee stain off the linoleum with desperate intensity. It was Brenda. After the bankruptcy and the blacklist, no airline would hire her. This contract cleaning job was the only thing she could get. She was back at Terminal 4, but she was no longer the gatekeeper. She was the help. Brenda felt eyes on her and looked up. Across the terminal, their gazes locked. Brenda felt a flush of shame so hot it burned. She wanted to beg for forgiveness, but Nia didn't look angry. She didn't look triumphant. She simply looked at peace. Nia gave a barely perceptible nod, acknowledging Brenda's existence, and then placed a hand on David's shoulder. "Come on, David," Nia said. "We have a plane to catch." Nia walked through the priority lane, soaring toward a future Brenda could no longer reach. Brenda watched her disappear, then looked down at the dirty floor, gripped her mop, and continued to scrub. The passport had come out of the trash, but Brenda, it seemed, had taken its place. That is the story of Dr. Nia Reynolds and the gate agent who made the fatal mistake of judging a book by its cover. Brenda Vance thought she held all the power because she stood behind a podium, but she learned the hard way that true power comes from character. In the end, the trash can where she threw that passport became the symbol of her own career, while Nia Reynolds turned that moment of humiliation into a legacy of hope. Karma isn't just about revenge, it's about the universe balancing the scales. It reminds us that the person you are rude to today might be the only person who can save you tomorrow. If this story moved you, please hit that like button to help us share this message. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode of real-life drama and justice. What would you have done if you were Dr. Reynolds? Would you have forgiven Brenda? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and remember, always be kind.